Also wanted to talk about my first week up in Washington. It was an interesting week. But I really wanted to come talk to you a little bit about the vote for John Boehner for Speaker, and particularly given how I campaigned and some of the things that I campaigned about regarding leadership maybe didn't make sense to those watching the vote. I told Louis, I said, Louis, when my turn comes to vote, if you've got 20 votes, I'll be your 21st. If there's enough folks that want to force a second ballot, I'll be with you. And so I watched the vote, and if those of you that watched the vote know that I was the 320th person to stand up and vote out of 408 that cast a vote.
Ratcliffe. Boehner.
35 votes were needed to force a second ballot.
Between the Republican candidates, we get 29 people to vote for somebody besides the current speaker.
Yes.
We have a second ballot.
So
When I stood up to vote, Louis Gohmert had 2 votes.
If they vote for a person, whether it's me, Ted Yoho, anybody else that gets in between now and Tuesday, and we have 29 people vote for somebody besides Speaker Boehner,
Right.
then we get to a second round or a third round. And so maybe some of those people that he got to vote for his Cromnibus bill that funded Obamacare and funded the amnesty for a while, maybe some of those Democrats that he got to vote for him then will vote for him for Speaker. If so, then he can still win Speaker, even if 29 of us vote for somebody besides him.
18 Republicans had voted against John Boehner. So I had a choice to make at that point. The race was over. It was opening day. It was shirts against skins. Wasn't the time for a fight in front of the American people.
It would take a fight to change speakers, and that's what it's time to do.
So, and you've just joined that fight this morning. You've just announced it here.
That's right.
I will say this for those of you that think that I should have made a protest vote. Every time someone voted for someone other than John Boehner on the floor of the House, Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats cheered. They were happy.
Unlike what some of the establishment people are saying, that, gee, if somebody votes for a candidate besides Boehner on the floor, Pelosi could win. That's hogwash.
Now, I could have lodged a protest vote. And as I sat there, I thought, you know, that'll make me a short-term hero. I'll go home and I'll get high fives from a lot of people that'll say, boy, you stood up to the establishment. But that protest vote would have put me against 90% of my Republican colleagues. 9 out of every 10 Republicans voted for John Boehner, not because they thought John Boehner makes the best speaker or that they wouldn't rather have someone else there. Folks like Trey Gowdy and Jeb Hensarling and Jim Jordan, the most conservative members of the Republican caucus. You know, I had a lot of folks say, when you go to Washington, be like those guys. Well, I was exactly like those guys. We all voted for John Boehner. You know, in a few weeks, as your congressman, the very first bill your congressman is going to introduce as a member of Congress is a balanced budget amendment. It'll be the most conservative balanced budget amendment bill in Washington. Now, to move that forward, I'm going to have to persuade my colleagues to support that. You can't go to 90% on the other side that voted a different way, that are back taking heat from their constituents, just like I am this week, if you're in the 10% that are home getting high fives. But if you disagree, then all I can do is say, I'm sorry to disappoint you, and all I can do is ask you to forgive me, and I'll work hard to earn back your trust. I also had the good fortune this week to be named chairman of one of the most important subcommittees in Washington. I'm the chairman of the Homeland Security Subcommittee on Cybersecurity.
If you go up there untethered from the, I'm going to play by the inside games, I'm going to work my way up, go along to get along so that I can chair some committee. You know, if you don't care about that stuff and you're willing to go up and represent the voters, that's really the congressman that I'm going to try and be.